My name is Tony, and I do serve here at Hospitable on the customer success team. So I'm your person here to connect with. If you're a user already and you're looking for ways to better leverage Hospitable, I'm your person here. So my journey as a short-term rental host, I've been using Hospitable since 2021. And like many of you, uh, I had this romantic dream and vision of one day having my own short-term rental, right? And so my wife and I kept thinking, we actually started on a different platform called Peerspace, which is a platform you can rent commercial space. Think of it as like a short-term rental for commercial spaces. And we loved it. We found we had this like hospitality itch in us that we wanted to scratch. And so that led us into short-term rentals. And so in 2021, we bought our first property and set it up as an Airbnb. Here's some photos of us in real life. And for all the parents out there, you probably can totally relate to what you're seeing here. That's in the first image, me mounting some peel and stick wallpaper with my daughter, who was a great assistant that day. Then kids jumping on the beds. Again, if you're a parent, you can relate. There's just no avoiding that. Kids get super thrilled when there's new bedding, new things to jump on, and very tired myself and wife in the last photo there. And so this started our hosting journey. And to be honest, we loved it. My wife loved furnishing it. And I found myself particularly enjoying the systems part of it, setting up automations like our door lock so that it would connect to Hospitable and that I could, wait, what? I can send codes to my guests automatically from this? That's fantastic. And so I just really enjoyed the tech automation side of it and just finding ways where this could work for me and not to require a ton of my daily intervening into the operations into it. I was also a photographer at the time, so doing a lot of freelance work, and so I knew I wanted this to be a well-oiled machine, if you will. And so the setting up of the systems put this bug in my head of, what if I did this for more owners? Like I kind of enjoyed setting this up. I think I've uncovered something here in terms of optimization, streamlining it. And that got me to thinking, what if I like try to find some other owners who could use this or they feel overwhelmed by the system side of it, right? And so what I did is I went to Zillow and I started looking at other properties in my market. And at the time, I was going back to Pittsburgh quite a bit. I have some family that live there. I also, it's relatively close to Ohio, Cleveland area where I live, and found this listing. It looked like a total bachelor pad. They had I want to say a futon couch in this room that we're looking at right here, and nothing else. That and a TV. There was a bed upstairs, washer and dryer, and that was it. And I saw this as an opportunity. They were trying to get a midterm renter on Zillow. The price was quite high, and I just kind of put two and two together, like the numbers that they're wanting for this midterm rental uh, aren't probably going to happen with how this place is furnished. And so I made my pitch. I reached out to them and said, hey, what if we spruce this place up? I think we can hit the numbers that you're wanting here and make this a really cute experience for guests. What do you think? And that was the start of my first co-host client. And from there, a lot happened. So we'll dive into some strategies there, but we're going to first start with a poll here. So Miles is going to share what that is.
So yeah, hopefully everyone can see that poll on screen. We're looking to see how many properties you currently manage. Looks like people are voting away. Please go ahead, contribute. Always helpful as we get as many people as possible answering that.
So we're getting in here. Looks like majority of you are at that 1 to 2 property range, still coming in. So a few of you at the 11 to 50 range, so I could take some pointers from you.
Well, looks like we're slowing down on the vote slow, so we'll just maybe give it a few more seconds.
All right. So majority of you are in that 40% of you are in that 1 to 2 property range. Safe to say you're here at this workshop, you're looking for opportunities to add more. And so we're going to get into that. Of course, when you're going from one property to many properties, more properties, there's going to be a bit of a mindset shift. You know, that first property is your baby, and you kind of do everything there, and you're willing to be a lot more hands-on. But as you add more properties, you're going to need to scale in ways, and you can't treat every single property like it's your baby as much as you might want to. You're going to have to think about systems that are sustainable to make that happen. And so these are some things that you think about when you're shifting your mindset on many properties, one property to many. Thinking through not just being a host, but an operator, how you're growing your business. You're thinking about you're creating a business now of many properties. And so there's a lot of things you need to start thinking about in terms of managing other owners, managing expectations, making sure that you're consistent, clear. All these things become really important as you start adding more properties into the mix. So let's get into the fun part here. How do we start finding these properties? How do we win over owners that we'd like to start managing for? And so I kind of teased the first one, but to me, the low-hanging fruit out there is Zillow. If you go on Zillow, you will be able to quickly locate opportunities. And this is how I found my first property. You can even do this in the background right now if you want. If you open up Zillow, there's a few strategies you can implement, but one that I like to do, my model was, look, I don't want to necessarily furnish an entire property. I want to find properties that maybe are already furnished. And I want to find properties that are in great locations. And a lot of times you'll find owners who are trying to rent on Zillow are either tired of doing short-term rentals, they feel exhausted or overwhelmed by it, or they're trying to flip to do a more midterm model, which you will come across that quite a bit. But what I like to look for is furnished rentals, listings with really bad photos. That's great because there you can add value right away, get a professional photographer in there, relist it, help manage it, and if you change the photos, it's going to change the quality of bookings. Bookings tend to increase whenever you have better photos in place. I also like to really focus on areas that are good locations. More now than ever, in my opinion, where your short-term rental is located matters a lot. 10 years ago, maybe less so, but now you need to be in ideal locations. And so I really concentrate my search efforts for this in very, very specific areas in my market. And then you might even look at like rentals that have been sitting for a long time. If an owner is looking for very high rent and it's been months before you're seeing if this listing's just been camping out there, that might be an opportunity to reach out to the owner and say, hey, what if we partner together and I try to help you get this number, but doing it as a short-term rental. What I love about Zillow is you get address, you can see the listing, you oftentimes get the actual owner's phone number right there. You'll see it right there. You can call it. And I just straight up started calling outbound to these owners on Zillow, making new connections that way. So great resource there. You'll find lots of clients that way. I definitely recommend Zillow for adding more properties to your mix there. This next one's a bit, it's more specific, same with Zillow, more specific to the US market. This one is very specific to the US market. Here in the US, we have this idea of FOIA, or Freedom of Information Act. And essentially, you can go to your city and write your city for pretty much any piece of information that the city holds, including short-term rental permits. So if your city or county issues licenses, permits, whatever it might be, even if property owners pay short-term rental taxes, you can write your city and request a list of these permit holders, license holders, or even taxpayers for short-term rentals. Now, why is this important? Because if you want a list of where all the short-term rentals are, who are the ones that actually have licenses and can operate in a particular market, which is extremely important if you're going to do this, then here you go. You already have a list of actual permit holders who you can contact and make a pitch to. What I like to look for here is owners who are maybe self-managing. Sometimes it tends to be a little too much for them, and you can make that pitch and take that responsibility off their plate. You can look for owners who are managing remotely. Maybe the long distance piece is becoming difficult and challenging, and this might be a valuable pitch to make to them. Or another one that's really fun to pursue is owners who are working with large property management companies and are not getting the attention that they might want. I'm not going to mention any names, but if you click around on Airbnb, you might find those large companies, and you'll see ratings suffer oftentimes because they're just not getting the attention. The guests are not getting responded to as quickly enough, and that's a great way for you to step in and be able to provide your own value and say, hey, I'm a newer operator in your market. I have excellent ratings. I'm going to be able to give you the attention that you need. And so FOIA is a fun one, and it's also, you feel a little like, I feel like I shouldn't be getting this information, and yet it's all available to you. So it's kind of a fun one to pursue. So where you might find this, you can check building and zone pages on specific county sites or city sites. And a lot of times you might even see that they post it publicly. You can literally click on a link and you'll be able to see the whole list right there. That was true for a market for me here in the Cleveland area. But oftentimes you'll need to write and request. So most cities and counties will have a FOIA request page where you literally just put in your name, phone number, the thing that you're requesting. It's not always the case that you get all information, like phone numbers, let's say, or addresses. Each city is allowed to withhold whatever they see fit. But I've done this many times, and you'd be surprised what all contact information gets included on many of these lists. So FOIA and STR permits is a great way to find owners' existing markets that you can reach out to as well. The next one would be Facebook groups, okay? And we've all been there. We've been in those Facebook groups, and maybe you saw people who are soliciting their services. Many groups no longer allow you just to kind of pitch your services into a group. That's actually against the rules of the group. And so with Facebook groups, the real angle for this is to provide value. You don't want to go into a group and just say, hey, I'm a host and I would love to co-host for you. Please message me if you are interested. You never really see interaction on those posts because it's not really providing value. You might get every once in a while someone reaching out to you who is willing to work with you. But by and large, the real gold here with Facebook groups is to go in and be the expert. You can showcase what you've done, how you've proven that you can be a successful host, maybe through your ratings, maybe through how you've designed and set up your property. You share your story, right? And so you're providing value. You want to add value to the conversations that are happening in these Facebook groups. One example of this is I mentioned I was a photographer, and I would often go into groups and offer people kind of like a quick 5-minute consultation on their listing photos, just to kind of give an opinion on, hey, I think if you switch this, that this would really help, or I think you could use a refreshment for all your photos on your listing. Try this, try that. And I could just quickly triangulate some things that they could fix and repair for their listings. And it was for free. I was just trying to give some value there to the group. And as those interactions continued to happen, every once in a while conversations would pop up where they would ask more, and I would say I'm a host and I'm looking to co-host more properties, and one thing led to another. So here I say, do provide value, make it free. People will really interact with that if you're giving that away. Don't just solicit your services. You're not going to get a whole lot of interactions or interest if you're just trying to, sell yourself and nothing else. Okay. This one, some of you might be familiar. Airbnb, about a year and a half ago or so, rolled out the Airbnb Co-Host Network. They kind of did it quietly. It was a bit more of a quiet beta phase, but this has been around for a while, especially in the European markets. They debuted it into the US as well, like a year and a half ago, like I said. But here you have to meet certain criteria as a host. I believe you don't have to be a co-host already, but you just have to have a good record as a host and meet certain criteria that they put forward. The thing that's important here is they limit what markets you can actually be a co-host in, and I believe it's a certain mile radius from your the primary listing that you manage. What really impacts score here for being presented to potential hosts and owners is your average rating that you have as a host, as well as your response rate. So they actually will rank you on how quickly you respond to inquiries for a co-host. And so if you do a great job just managing your listing, you have a 5-star review and you're really quick to respond, you have a 100% response rate, you will rank high and look very appealing to other hosts who are looking for a co-host. I put the link here. You can go to that website. You can see about getting signed up, but definitely check this out. The one caveat I will put here, in the time I've been on this co-host network, I have gotten a couple of clients on here, but I've gotten a ton of leads that are not qualified in my opinion. Airbnb has done a better job of cleaning up the spam that was coming through here, but now it seems to be a lot more actual hosts coming through. But just make sure it's the right fit. It'll be tempting to say yes to everything that comes your way, but not every inquiry is necessarily the right fit. And that's something we can talk about later in this conversation as well. The last one I'll plug here, we have Mike Riley, who's actually a hospitable user. He coined this method called the UI method. And this one is a multi-step process, but can be highly valuable if you implement it. And so basically what Mike put forward was finding potentially high earning but underperforming listings in particular markets. So think they have really bad ratings, really bad photos, lack of design, lots of things. You might identify it. So I mentioned photography, that was often my angle, but I could often see like when listings were not performing well. And so I threw a photo here on this particular slide just to kind of give an example. So some of you might be familiar with the West Michigan market. Saugatuck is a popular little destination, highly traveled to, especially by Chicago. And I saw this listing and I was like, oh, I can't help it. You'll notice in some of these photos, like, you know, maybe like they could do some improvement here. Certainly the one hot tub photo, the water looks green. I don't know if that's normal or not. It doesn't seem very normal, but just there could be some things here that are not just going well in terms of drawing guests to this particular listing. If you look at the reviews, 4.43 is not good. Like, not a lot of reviews. They only have 14 reviews here, but it's still struggling, and this is not going to attract new guests. You really need to be at a 4.8 or higher to be showing high in results for Airbnb's algorithm. And so here, according to Mike, what we would do is you can find who owns this property, and you have to do a little bit of sleuthing here. So you can use a mix of AirDNA. PropWire is another site where you can put in, once you discover what the address might be, you can find out who the owner is, use a mix of True People Search, and I put in here a little dose of Sherlock just to make sure you're doing all the right things. And you can make a pitch to this owner and say, hey, look, I noticed your property there. It's managed by X, Y, and Z. I noticed your reviews are here. I think I can do a better job. Here's why. And you can basically, Mike's approach is really to make sure you're matching what are the goals of the owner. If the goal of the owner is to earn more income, have a better ranking, then match it. Like, show how you're going to be able to do that. But the point here is that you're identifying high income earning properties, and this is valuable because the time it takes to manage a high income property is about the same as it takes to manage a low income property. And so if you can manage fewer properties that are higher earning, wouldn't you want to do that? And so this is a great method. It's a bit more time intensive, but can be very rewarding if done correctly and you have your pitch down. Okay, so let's talk about some tools. We've talked about some ways to acquire. Hopefully that's been insightful in terms of new methods you can employ to go out and start finding new listings, potential owners you can start partnering and working with. But now that you got that property, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to manage this property? Well, we got an answer for that. We have some tools here at Hospitable that will help you do just that. So in our mogul plan, this plan is particularly tailored fit to co-host and property managers who have multiple listings. Our mogul plan features our AI auto reply. It has our AI co-pilot, a way to interface data and information about your listings across all listings. You can interact with it very much like a chat GPT and get information relevant to your listings. The AI auto reply, let me back up to that real quick because it's tremendously valuable. You could set that to respond based on certain timing that you might want automatically, or you can have it on 24/7. And so depending on what your tolerance is of how the AI, how often you want the AI to respond, you can set that time and be selective about it. But the real gold here is we have a feature in Hospitable called Knowledge Hub, where you can create a database of what the AI is going to reference that it will then auto reply from to the guests. And it does this in context, intelligently, in conversation. And it's a really cool tool. I've been using it a lot for my listings, everything from questions like where do I park to what are some restaurants I can go to. AI is replying automatically for me, and it's beautiful. We have a whole owner management section in our mogul plan that includes owner portal, statements. Once you get into managing other people's property, it's really important to be able to show revenue and expenses and how you're charging your commission. We have a way to facilitate owner payouts as well as invoicing. And our mogul plan also features 4 smart devices that you get to connect per property. So we kind of talked about some of these owner statements and invoices, being able to send off a statement while at the same time invoicing your owners. You'll be able to do this. This is debuting in February, particularly the invoice piece of it. Our branded owner portal, when owners want to see information about bookings, if they want to make their own reservations for their own properties, they can do all this through a branded owner portal. Really useful. I love this feature. Whenever my owner writes me and says, I'd like to stay at the property this and this and date, I'm like, great. Here's the owner portal, make your reservation, schedule the cleaner if you'd like. And it's a great way to kind of pass that off to them to book their own stay. If you're doing owner payouts, just make sure you're doing your diligence on this, the way you're structuring your business. If you're doing payouts, you tend to need to be what we call using trust accounting. And so make sure you do your research on what's the right fit for you if you're starting your own property management or co-host business. But we do have a way to automate owner payouts directly from Hospitable and accounting for property managers. Okay, so let's talk about some mistakes that you can avoid. So the thing that when you start getting into this, it's going to be really tempting to try to draw people by setting, a low commission fee or creating a complicated tiered. I'll charge this much commission if it's this much revenue, and then I'll charge this tier commission if it gets to this revenue. It gets a little too complicated, too much to manage. Just start simple. Choose a percentage of revenue or a flat fee for managing that listing. Talk about what the agreement's going to be. You need to agree with what you're going to be doing actually for the property, and talk with your owner and create an agreement directly with them. Talk about who's going to order supplies, who's going to pay the cleaner. All these things need to be thought through and communicated before you get started. Don't just kind of go along and say, I'll figure it out, or don't worry, when we cross that bridge, we'll just figure it out. You want to think through these things ahead. Think about managing your own listing, all that it's required to keep that in operation. Now you need to do this for somebody else, and you need to do the same thing. Go through the same list of all the things that need to be thought through, X, Y, and Z. who's going to handle when those things come up. So let's talk about some next steps. So create an action plan. If you're wanting to add a property to the mix for your portfolio, think about one of the channels that we talked about today that you can test out and try. Maybe you go on Zillow, look in your market, find something in your market that is available, and call that owner, text that owner, do something, take action on seeing if you can manage for that owner. Or maybe you want to explore short-term rental permits in your market and get that list and start making calls that way. Or you want to try the UI method of what Mike Riley puts forward and find those high earning properties in your market and make a pitch to them that you could do a better job and you can earn them more revenue. Think through the system that you'll set up before you put that next listing into operation. So what are you going to be doing on the Hospitable side? What features are you going to need to activate in Hospitable to make this possible? So if you are interested in experiencing Mogul, there's two ways you can try this out. So if you're not a Hospitable user yet, we offer a free trial here at Hospitable. You can get a 2-week trial of the product. When you get a 2-week trial, you're actually getting a trial of Mogul itself. It's a full plan. All the features are available to you there. Head to hospitable.com to get started with that. If you're an existing user, if you scan this QR code, that will schedule a meeting with me, and we can talk through the Mogul features in deeper detail, how you would start putting these to use in action for your business and your properties. So scan that code there. You'll have a direct meeting link with me there. Cool. And then finally, I could talk. Miles, do you want to talk to this or?
No, sorry, you go ahead. I'm jumping in. I apologize.
Okay. Yeah, you're good. Last thing, if there's more questions, if you're on Hospitable already, trial or paying customer, you have access to our community. So this QR code will take you there. There's lots of conversations taking place there with other hosts. So definitely join in the conversation there. Lots of value there that you can be giving as well as a host. And that's it for me.
Great, thank you very much, Tony. Sorry for cutting you off there. So yeah, I just wanted to jump in and say, obviously, we do have time for some questions for Tony now. If you do have any questions about his presentation, we did manage to grab a bunch of questions from the chat throughout the session, so I can go through and reel those off. I think you actually managed to answer quite a few questions as you went as well, Tony, as part of your presentation. So well done you for planning ahead and guessing what people are going to ask. Okay, we had a good question from Jen at the start. Tony, did you start a separate business to do hosting, or were you just a single property manager? I have one LLC, but thinking I need a separate one for doing hosting or design for other people.
So Jen, yes, I did create a separate business for, and I might just clarify I'll clarify two things here. So when I started hosting, I just hosted under my own personal name, but I put our property in an LLC. A little bit of a different question, I think, but what you might be getting after. When I started co-hosting for owners, I did create a separate entity for my co-hosting business to keep things separate, the finances separate. Definitely recommend doing that. It's just when you go to do your taxes, you're going to have to show all the accounting on that side of things. It's just easier to manage it separately in its own bank account that way. You don't want to be mixing funds and things like that whenever you're co-hosting with your own property funds. And that's what I was getting at earlier. If you're doing property management, there are very strict rules on how you are handling payouts. So most states, I believe, you have to be a licensed real estate agent in order to be able to do that. So there's just certain rules that apply to that. Most people who are not a real estate agent would qualify to be a co-host, but definitely create a separate business entity. I think that's the best path forward.
Great, that makes sense. Okay, Catherine had a question. How do you take over an existing listing? Oh, sorry, existing less than great Airbnb listing. Does the existing account have to take down the listing first before you can relist so it doesn't show as a duplicate?
Great question, Catherine. So couple things you need to think about. If it's a less than great listing, what's making it less than great? If it's the really poor reviews, part of the value you might propose to the owner is that, look, we're beyond recovery at this point. If you're at 4.4 stars at this point and there's 100 reviews, it's going to be really hard to improve the average there. Let's silence this listing. We're going to start afresh and we're going to relaunch this listing with brand new. So the disadvantage there is that all the reviews that they have previously that were positive go away, but the positive is going to be we can start anew and we can try to pursue that 5-star desirable ranking that we want. The typically with Airbnb, if you silence a listing, you can create a new listing for that same property. So they can't simultaneously be on live, but if one is silenced and not viewable to the public, a new one can be live that people can actually start booking at.
Cool, that makes sense. Good stuff. Catherine had a question around co-hosting contracts. So specifically asking if you have a co-hosting contract you could share, but maybe you can at least just talk us through some examples of the things that you're putting into one of those contracts.
Yeah, so the contracts, first of all, you definitely, whenever you're dealing with legal things, you want to make sure that you're getting that reviewed by an attorney. There's lots of boilerplate templates out there on the internet that you can access. But I wouldn't just take a boilerplate one and not get it reviewed. There's going to be local rules and regulations that you need to maybe include in that contract. But good things to include are some of the things we hit on earlier. Who's going to do X, Y, and Z for that? So who's handling maintenance, for example? Is it going to be your job as a co-host to schedule maintenance, or is that all falling to the owner? The other thing I would be very, very explicit on a contract with is tax liability. That's a big one to think about. You don't want to get into a situation where you come on as a co-host or a manager and the owner just assumes that you were taking care of all tax liabilities on their behalf. That's what I hired you for, right? So you want to make sure that's very clear from the get-go, that you're not stepping into a situation that can become really sticky because it wasn't communicated in the get-go. So tax liability, who's handling maintenance, if for some reason you might want to include in the contract, like if the owner is uncooperative with the expectations for them as an owner, like if they are not making the roof repair that needs to be repaired, are you allowed to back out of that contract? So you want to have some protections in the contract that protect you as a co-host, but also just protect the business in general.
That makes a lot of sense. And makes sense on getting a lawyer to review these things as well. Tony is not a lawyer. Okay. Typically, what are the common percentage commission or revenue do you take as part of being a co-host?
Yeah, it's a great question, Elena. This is a hotly debated topic, and a lot of people will tell you what's industry standard and what's not industry standard. And I don't have a perfect answer. The number I come across most often is 20%, 20 to 25% is pretty typical, but it's not uncommon for, let's say, vacation rental destination markets to maybe take a 15% cut because those are high earning properties. And so particularly when you're dealing with competition, they're like just take Charleston, South Carolina, for example, highly competitive market, lots of property managers there, lots of vacation rentals. If you're coming in charging 30% for your commission, there's going to be 1,000 other property managers that will take half as much as you. So if you're going to charge a high commission, think about what value is coming with that percentage, right? And think about also the volume of what's coming in revenue wise. So it wouldn't be unusual if it's a low volume, low revenue property to maybe choose to take a higher percentage for that particular property. It's not a one size fits all necessarily. Also, if you're doing, and there's a lot of expectations on you as the co-host to do a lot of things, like it's not unusual for some markets like Hocking Hills in Ohio. There's some property managers that will plow, They will do your landscaping for you, but their commission reflects that as well. So think about what you're including in there. Typical co-hosts are just handling messaging with guests, coordinating cleaners, maybe ordering some supplies. 20 to 25% is what I've seen most typically.
Cool, that makes sense. That's good advice. Okay. So a question on the AI. You've obviously touched on the AI agent slightly. How do you train it? How do we tell it where the ironing board is in our property, for instance?
Yeah, so great question. If you are a Hospitable user already, there's a great place I mentioned earlier called the Knowledge Hub. So the way you find this is if you go to properties, I could actually just show you. I'll share my screen right now. That way you guys can actually see what this looks like. So give me a sec. Okay, so here is my account. If you click on properties right here, you will find your Knowledge Hub when you click on a specific property right here on the left-hand side. And when I click on Knowledge Hub, there's all this data. And if you've never set this up in your account before, when you first click on Knowledge Hub, there's going to be a big pink button here that says Generate Knowledge Hub. Click that, and what it does is it starts importing listing information as well as historical messages that you've had with guests. So anytime you've randomly answered the question, where's the light switch for this ceiling fan? Or what are some local recommendations for a burger or something like that? That can get stored here. Anytime you want, you can come in here and edit things that are stored in your Knowledge Hub. So if I changed this coffee maker from, let's say, a Keurig to a drip coffee maker, I can then edit that detail here. I use my Knowledge Hub for a lot of things. One of my favorite is I just literally copy and paste instructions on certain amenities at my property. Like this is the outdoor fire pit. When people ask me, I can either use Suggest with AI to respond with this, but I have to tap the button to do that, or the Inbox AI now can automatically respond in context with these instructions to the guest. So love this feature, works really well, and that's how you can modify any information for the AI responses.
Nice, awesome. So we've got a few more minutes, so we'll squeeze in a couple more questions.
Sure.
Kathy asked, do you have liability insurance for your co-hosting?
Yeah, so I use a company called Safely that basically provides liability coverage per stay as well as damage coverage. I really like Safely, great product, and they do cover property managers. That's what makes them unique. A lot of companies will cover the owner, but not necessarily a property manager or a co-host. If the owner does already have short-term rental insurance in place, oftentimes they need to add you as an additional cover. So check with your owners. If they already have a policy in place, they could typically add you to be a covered insurable person for the property. But I use Safely for exactly that reason.
Nice, good stuff. And then we had a question here. What would it mean to take over tax liability? And does the co-host pay taxes on commissions?
That's a great question, and not one that I have any experience with. I have just never touched this one. Taking care of other people's taxes sounds scary. I have to do a better job of just handling my own taxes, to be honest. So taking care of other people's taxes is just not one I really touch. Most property managers that I have conversations with are not doing this service for their owners. It's not typically expected. I'm guessing there's some out there that do. I just don't come across it very often.
It's fair enough. Maybe for the person that asked that question, you can ask in the Hospitable host community. Maybe there's other people that have gone through that process themselves. Okay, before we wrap, I'm just going to give you one more question. I think it ties nicely to kind of the mobile features you talked through. So Lisa said, I came in a bit late, but is it advisable as a project manager to set up a Hospitable owners account / portal, or do I coordinate all of that on my own?
I have my first co-hosting property and struggled to navigate. Okay, so if I'm understanding the question correctly, so in Hospitable, there's a couple of different things you can do. number one is when you have your own property, you have the ability to create a business on the mogul plan. You have an option to create multiple businesses, and I think this might be where you're getting at, Lisa. Is we can separate the business of your own property from your co-hosting or property manager business, and so there's actually a place found in operations in the mogul account where you can create your business, and then you can then delineate whether or not you own that business, or sorry, if the properties in that business you own or if you manage them. And so you can actually have different business structures within the mogul plan, multiple businesses. We account for if it's properties you own, if it's properties that you manage, or if it's an arbitrage business. Those are the three business models that we have in the mogul plan. And so you can set those up accordingly in your Hospitable account.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. I think that's all we have time for from Tony today. But Tony, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. Hopefully you got a lot of value out of this.